hung up on you. I'm in love with you.
You can't be in love with me. We've been over this. You're a kid. You don't know what love means. I don't know what it means. Nobody out there knows what the hell's going on.
We have laughs together. I care about you. Your concerns are my concerns. We have great sex.
But you're 17 years old. By the time you're 21, you'll have a dozen relationships.
Some movies age like fine wine. Others curdle the moment truth comes out. Behind these classics and blockbusters lie scandals, crimes, and tragedies that changed how we see them forever. What once entertained millions now feels tainted by what we know today. These are 20 films that became disturbing for reasons no one saw coming. Warner Brothers spent hundreds of millions reviving the DC Universe through The Flash. On paper, it was the franchise's chance to reset the timeline and compete with Marvel. Ezra Miller played the dual Barry Allens, a hero racing through time to save his mother. Off-screen, though, Miller became the headline. Multiple arrests for assault, property damage, and allegations of grooming minors turned one of Hollywood's youngest stars into a cautionary story. Warner executives faced public outrage and calls for cancellation, but the film had already been shot. When it finally hit theaters in 2023, the audience didn't show up. The Flash grossed only $270 million on a $220 million budget. A superhero epic became a corporate embarrassment. What was designed to relaunch DC instead became a symbol of how scandal can destroy even the most expensive universe ever built. Universal's reimagining of the fairy tale was meant to showcase Kristen Stewart's first post-Twilight transformation. The film looked strong on paper, Charlize Theron as the evil queen, lavish production design, and a global haul nearing $400 million. Then the photos surfaced. Stewart, then dating Robert Pattinson, was seen kissing the film's married director, Rupert Sanders. The images became international tabloid fuel. Sanders' marriage collapsed, Stewart's reputation shattered, and the film's sequel plans were scrapped. The scandal eclipsed every creative discussion about the movie's dark tone or its visual effects. Snow White and the Huntsman didn't just modernize a fairy tale, it turned into one of Hollywood's most public betrayals. Doug Liman's stylish spy thriller paired Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie as married assassins ordered to kill each other. What began as a romantic action comedy turned into the origin of one of the most infamous real-world affairs in Hollywood history. Pitt was still married to Jennifer Aniston when filming began, but tabloid rumors of on-set chemistry refused to fade. Months later, Pitt's marriage ended, and his relationship with Jolie became public. Every scene of flirtation and tension in Mr. and Mrs. Smith now feels like documentary footage of a real affair unfolding in real time. The movie earned nearly $500 million worldwide, but its cultural memory isn't cinematic. It's personal. It's remembered as the day Hollywood's golden couple met and another one fell apart. Luca Guadagnino's Call Me By Your Name once defined modern art house romance. Its setting, music, and performances turned it into an Oscar-winning phenomenon. But that image changed dramatically in 2021, when actor Armia Hammer became the subject of graphic allegations. Multiple women accused him of emotional abuse and disturbing sexual behavior, including violent messages that referenced cannibalism. His agency dropped him, his films were shelved, and the scandal redefined how people viewed his work. What was once a story of tenderness and discovery became impossible to separate from the darkness surrounding its lead actor. The movie still looks beautiful, but the emotion now carries unease, a quiet discomfort that never fades once you know the truth behind the face on screen. The Queen biopic roared through theaters, winning 4 Academy Awards and grossing $910 million worldwide. It was built as a celebration of Freddie Mercury's life and a revival of Queen's legacy. But behind its glossy surface, chaos ruled the production. Director Bryan Singer disappeared from set repeatedly, clashing with the cast and crew. He was eventually fired and replaced before filming finished. Then, during the film's awards campaign, years of sexual assault allegations resurfaced against Singer. BAFTA stripped his name from the film's nomination list, and even as Rami Malek held his Oscar, the shadow over the movie was impossible to ignore. The energy and triumph that Bohemian Rhapsody captured on screen became permanently linked to one of Hollywood's most troubling scandals. Few films carry as much posthumous tragedy as Rebel Without a Cause. It turned James Dean into an icon of restless youth, just weeks before his fatal car crash at 24. His co-stars met similar fates. Sal Mineo was murdered in Los Angeles at 37, and Natalie Wood drowned in mysterious circumstances in 1981. The film, once a celebration of rebellion, feels more like an elegy. Every scene of these young actors struggling to understand life plays against the knowledge of how little time they had left. The performances are raw, but the shadow of their deaths gives the film an eerie afterlife. It's not only a classic, it's a ghost story preserved on celluloid. David O. Russell's existential comedy was supposed to be a gentle satire about self-discovery and modern chaos. Instead, the chaos took place off-camera. During filming, Russell erupted into a violent shouting match with actress Lily Tomlin. The leaked behind-the-scenes footage, released in 2007, showed the director hurling insults, screaming profanity, and throwing objects across the set. The meltdown spread online, tarnishing the film's message of calm introspection. I Heart Huckabees preaches about ego, kindness, and enlightenment. But knowing what happened during production, every philosophical line now sounds like irony. Producer Howard Hughes wanted an epic about Mongol warlord Genghis Khan and cast John Wayne in the lead, a decision already bizarre. What no one foresaw was the production's lasting human cost. The film was shot near St. George, Utah, downwind from U.S. nuclear testing sites. Decades later, reports revealed that more than 90 of the 220 cast and crew developed cancer, including Wayne, Susan Hayward, and director Dick Powell. Radioactive dust had blown through the set and contaminated imported soil used for reshoots in Hollywood. Scientists never confirmed causation, but the numbers spoke for themselves. The third Blade film promised to close out Marvel's first major superhero trilogy, but instead, it descended into infighting. Reports from the set describe lead actor Wesley Snipes refusing to film scenes, speaking to director David Goyer through written notes, and staying isolated in his trailer. Crew members recalled tension so severe that production nearly collapsed. The movie underperformed, critics panned it, and Snipes' reputation suffered permanent damage. Within 2 years, he faced tax fraud charges and disappeared from major studio roles. Blade. Trinity marked the point where a rising star's career burned out in real time, leaving behind a film remembered less for vampires and more for the chaos that consumed it. In 1982, a stunt scene for the Twilight Zone anthology went catastrophically wrong. A helicopter exploded mid-air, killing actor Vic Morrow and 2 child extras, ages 6 and 7. The children had been hired illegally, working beyond allowed hours with real pyrotechnics overhead. Director John Landis and several crew members faced manslaughter charges. Though all were acquitted, the trial exposed a culture of negligence on Hollywood sets. The movie, meant to revive Rod Serling's classic series, instead became synonymous with one of the industry's darkest accidents. D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation is often called the film that invented modern cinema. It introduced editing techniques, large-scale battle scenes, and close-up storytelling that shaped filmmaking for decades. But its artistic innovation came with a poison core. The movie glorified the Ku Klux Klan as heroic saviors and portrayed Black Americans through racist caricatures played by white actors in blackface. When it premiered, riots broke out in several U.S. cities. The NAACP protested, warning that the film would incite violence, and it did. For all its influence, its legacy remains inseparable from hate. What began as a best-selling romance novel turned into one of the most chaotic productions in recent memory. It Ends With Us, starring Blake Lively and directed by Justin Baldoni, was meant to capture the emotional gravity of Colleen Hoover's story. Instead, it became a tabloid spectacle. Reports surfaced of constant tension between Lively and Baldoni, arguments over creative control, and accusations of on-set harassment. By the time the movie was released, the feud had spilled into public statements and legal threats. The drama completely overshadowed the film's release. Savage Steve Holland's offbeat teen comedy was once celebrated for its weird humor and underdog charm. But decades later, one casting choice makes it uncomfortable to watch. The Shar character of Ricky, a socially awkward stalker, was played by Dan Schneider. The same man later accused of inappropriate behavior and exploitation of young performers at Nickelodeon. Investigations and documentaries exposed years of misconduct allegations involving minors. Looking back, Schneider's portrayal of a creepy, controlling character hits uncomfortably close to home. When The Blind Side released, it became an American classic overnight, a feel-good tale of compassion that won Sandra Bullock an Oscar. But in 2023, its foundation cracked. Real-life football player Michael Oher revealed he was never adopted by the Tuohy family as depicted in the movie. Instead, they placed him under a conservatorship that allowed them to control his finances and profit from his likeness. The revelation turned the inspirational story into something darker, a case study of manipulation and exploitation. Ron Howard's Oscar-winning biopic about mathematician John Nash won 4 Academy Awards and was praised for humanizing mental illness. Yet the truth behind it is much more complicated. Nash's real life included anti-Semitic statements, infidelity, and violent delusions far beyond what the film showed. His wife Alicia, who stood by him through his illness, suffered deeply, details erased from the script. By simplifying his struggles into a romanticized narrative, A Beautiful Mind created a version of truth that never existed. It remains an impressive film, but for historians and scholars, it stands as an example of how Hollywood can rewrite reality to make genius look clean. Bernardo Bertolucci's Last Tango in Paris was hailed as groundbreaking for its raw sexual realism, but its most infamous scene hides one of cinema's darkest betrayals. Actress Maria Schneider, only 19 at the time, revealed years later that the now notorious butter scene was not disclosed to her beforehand. Both Bertolucci and Marlon Brando decided to surprise her to capture a real reaction. What the world saw as powerful performance was in fact real fear and humiliation. Schneider said she felt raped both emotionally and physically. A children's movie about a curious cat and a pug became one of the most troubling stories in animal filmmaking. Shot in Japan over 4 years, The Adventures of Milo and Otis used real animals in elaborate stunts. from falling off cliffs to drifting down rivers. After its release, animal rights groups investigated claims that multiple animals were injured or killed during production. The studio denied wrongdoing, and no official charges followed, but the rumors have never faded. Watching it today, the realism feels eerie rather than charming. What should have been innocent entertainment now raises a disturbing question. How much suffering was hidden to make it look cute? At the time, Heathers was a daring satire about teen angst, bullying, and murder in American high schools. Its dark humor and violence felt outrageous and fictional. Decades later, it feels far too real. With the rise of school shootings and youth violence, scenes of bomb threats, suicide jokes, and classmates turning on one another hit differently. Networks that tried to remake Heathers for TV in 2018 delayed it multiple times because real-life tragedies kept occurring. What was once a cult classic is now nearly impossible to watch without the context of modern America's violence. The film's clever writing hasn't changed, only the world around it has. The Poltergeist franchise terrified audiences, but its off-screen events were even more chilling. Child actress Heather O'Rourke, who played Carol Ann, died suddenly at age 12 just before the sequel's release. Her co-star, Dominique Dunne, had already been murdered by an abusive ex-boyfriend. Fans began calling the production cursed. Whether coincidence or not, the sense of dread attached itself permanently to the films. Watching O'Rourke cry, "They're here," carries a new sadness. Poltergeist wasn't just about spirits haunting a family. It became a haunting of Hollywood itself. For decades, Harvey Weinstein defined prestige cinema. Through Miramax and the Weinstein Company, he produced Shakespeare in Love, Pulp Fiction, Good Will Hunting, and hundreds more. But behind the awards and speeches was decades of abuse. Over 80 women accused Weinstein of harassment, coercion, and assault, sparking the global Me Too movement. Nearly every film he touched is now viewed differently. The Oscars, the praise, the art itself tainted by what was happening off-camera. Every frame hides a story darker than the script. Subscribe now for more films that Hollywood wishes you'd forget.